All right. All right. I'm live again. That was really bad. I invited Will Cooper back. I have to admit, I was just talking to Will Cooper about exclusives for 45 minutes, and then I realized that it wasn't even on air. So now I feel totally terrible because I accidentally turned it off and I was off air, but now I'm on air. My name's Dave. This is Virtual Event Herf. I invited Will to come on the show, so hopefully Will will be coming on shortly. I don't know what happened with that, but we're talking about exclusives, a little bit about IPCPR. Will is not on the show, as you can see. Will Cooper from Stogie Geeks and Cigar Coop is a wonderful person. Agreed to do the show, and then I messed it up and didn't have it on air. It was off air, and it was really bad, and I feel bad for that. Um, but Will Cooper should be coming. I'm going to invite him again because he has had some great insights into shop exclusives, things like that. And I'm inviting him again to come back on. I feel terrible. Although I am smoking a H. Upmann Magnum 48 from 2009. I invited Will to come back on. Hopefully Will do that. I don't know if he can. He's not on right now. This cigar is smoking amazing. But most of the show is off. So no one's viewing it. This is a great start to the show. So now Will is not on right now. I am on. Will Cooper is not on. We'll see if he comes back on. We're talking exclusives, talking about different exclusives that are out in the market, different exclusives that people would like to have, different exclusive shops put out, and what the kinds of exclusives are. Like I said, I'm smoking a H. Upmann Magnum 48, which is exclusive from limited edition from 2009, which can, it's good to have. It's sort of an exclusive that came out. Like I said, 2009 is cut on and gone. So I'm just writing Will now to see if he can come back on. Because now that we're actually on air and not off air, maybe talk to him for a little bit. Well, it's a learning experience. I mean, what are you going to do? I'm Dave. I do a podcast called Cigar Jukebox. It's about cigars and music. Hopefully you can check that out. Hopefully this isn't the last Herf I get to do because I did it like all wrong. Hopefully that will be okay. But I like to, thanks to Cigar Federation, Logan, the guys for giving me a chance at this. Hopefully Will be able to come back on. If not, that's too bad, and I apologize. I'm going to send him a lot of cigars in the mail for being nice enough to do this and have me do it like totally wrong. And to have Will lose like all faith in me probably. But, hopefully it'll all get sorted out. I'll just talk a little bit about what the virtual event Herfs are going to be. So basically it's going to be once a month. I'm going to be coming on, having people on, guests on, smoking their cigars, talking about cigars. Hopefully by then I'll figure out how this thing works and how people could get on to the show. Hopefully Will can get back on. I've invited him a few times now, so hopefully he'll be able to get back on. Uh, we'll talk a little bit about cigars, a little bit about just, people in general. It'll be about an hour or so, kind of last how long the cigar lasts. I'm pairing my cigar right now with a Black Bear iced coffee here in Australia, which is where I'm based. It's Brisbane right now, as you can tell. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. I feel bad for Will now. Because Will Cooper, Cigar Coop, Stogie Geeks, he's one of the best in the business, and I just basically wasted 45 minutes of his time. So this is a public apology to you, Will, and I'll be sending you lots of cigars in the mail to make up for that. We were talking about exclusives, talking to Will about some other things, about IPCPR, what he's looking forward to, things like that. So I'll just spend the time right now talking a little bit about what the Herfs are going to be. And I have no viewers because everybody thought it was over, probably because I did it all wrong. So hopefully next time I'll do it right. Maybe I'll see if I can have Will on another time, do an early one, just so that I can, make amends for being so terrible at this. Hopefully he can come on again, because it is great to hear from Will, and he does a great job with Stogie Geeks and a great job with Cigar Coop, Will Cooper. That is good to have him on. I'll have to have him back on. Hopefully we'll have him back on again shortly. But until then, the virtual event Herfs are Herfs that are going to be held on Google Hangout. Now that I took this time to totally fail and find out how to do it correctly, next time, hopefully it will be really good. It'll be class. It's a class act next time. We'll have to try this again. But what it's going to be is every month there's going to be me hosting a cigar person. And it'll be at the same time, so we're shooting for about 8 p.m. Eastern, which here in Australia is about 10 a.m. The next day. So we'll go for 8 p.m. Eastern, sort of on a Saturday. What we'll do is we'll have a guest on. Oh, he's coming. Will.
There we go.
Will, I owe you a lot because I just totally made a dog's breakfast out of this first episode.
I see a live button now, so I think you might have got it.
This reminds me of a time where I sat down to record the podcast, because I do a podcast, Cigar Jukebox. I spoke for 45 minutes and looked, and I didn't press the record button.
You gotta hate when that happens. I'm very dependent on our crew with Stogie Geeks because I have no clue how to do this otherwise.
I need a crew. That's what I need, Will. I need a crew.
You do need a crew.
But it's all, I was saying before, and I'll talk to you later, I got to have you back on for when it's, like, I can have you on for real instead of totally, wasting 45 minutes of your time, which I apologize for.
You didn't waste my time. Don't worry about it. I can give you whatever you need, yeah.
So while we were off air, Will was just, saying all this wonderful news and amazing, shocking stories, and none of them will go to air now. And the other thing we found when we were talking off air was that Google Plus does not like Will Cooper for some reason and likes to freeze a lot.
It's been terrible tonight.
But what has not been terrible is my cigar. So we're about 45 minutes in, and I got about that much left of the old H. Upman. Do you want to tell people what you're smoking?
Yes. So I'm smoking a shop cigar that was done by Illusione, and I'm about a little past the halfway point. Let's see if I can get this to the camera. That is
There it is.
called
You can
the
see the cigar there.
Illusione Burn.
Yeah,
It's the Illusione Burn, and that cigar was done. I'm trying to get the focus a little better.
yeah.
You can see it there. There we go.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so you can see it's a white and red. It was done by
Yeah,
Illusione for, of all people, Rocky Patel's Lounge in Naples, Florida.
really?
So yeah, so it's a Nicaraguan puro that he did. This has been out for about 5 years. I'm smoking a 5x52 Robusto. Dion doesn't do a lot of these shop exclusives. But this is a nice cigar. It's got a lot of cedar notes. It's got some sweetness. You know, with the exception of Dion's Ultra line, which I think is ultra strong. This is classic Dion. It's in the middle. It's not going to overpower you. It's going to
Yeah,
deliver good flavor, consistency. So it's burning pretty good. Actually, a little earlier on, it was a little uneven, but I think it's outside and I was talking. So
yeah. And then, and I was saying this is the H. Upmann Magnum 48, which is from 2009, which is a limited edition. And it's sort of one and gone. Kind of nestled right in between that Magnum 46 and Magnum and the 50. And the 46 is one of my favorite cigars of all time. So the 48, smoking really well, great draw and burn, great construction on this cigar, and great sort of tobacco, a little bit of cedar, a little bit of spice, a little bit of a black licorice flavor. Just tremendous, tremendous smooth cigar, this one.
yeah, you know, if I actually have a backup cigar here. This is if I could pull this up to
The
the camera.
backup!
The
What's
backup
that
in
one?
case I need it. This is
Oh, is that the...
called
Go ahead.
it's the My Father El Hijo. This was done by My Father Cigars for Smoke In back in 2011, and it's a box press, and it's considered one of their more it's one of the more iconic releases that actually went to Smoke In from My Father. It was one of the more popular ones, and we were talking before we had the little snafu. I think Smoke In when it comes to doing shop exclusives, they are absolutely the model that every retailer should be following what they do. They know how to
Now,
promote it.
now your shop has a My Father exclusive. I just saw on your site the other day. Your Pipe and Pint, doesn't it?
Yes, so Pipe and Pint, what they are, so it's yes, they have a couple of My Father exclusives. So, for starters, they now have the reblend of a cigar called El Rey de los Habanos, which is Pepin's first blend, the old
Yep.
Pepin red label. So that's exclusive to them, but they're also what's called a My Father Lounge. So in the realm of limited editions, My Father Lounges receive an exclusive cigar. And what My Father's doing now is they're giving each lounge the same blend, but in a different size. So in
Right.
this case, they got a box press torpedo, and that was what was just announced this week.
Right. All right. And do you know how the process of that works? Like, does My Father approach them, or do they approach My Father, or how does that work?
Um, I think I don't know. I gotta say I don't know. Other
Uh,
than I know that I could. The one thing I do know is that My Father targets, I guess, certain accounts that they would see as a good fit, and
yeah.
they're very protective of geography. I do know that most of the My Father lounges are exclusive to that state. So there's the Pipe and Pint exclusive in North Carolina. Um, Cutters in South
Right.
Carolina is an exclusive. So that's pretty much how it works right now.
Right. All right. Mm. So Will and I were talking before in our expansive 45-minute discussion that no one's ever going to hear, unfortunately. But talking about exclusives and limiteds. Now, just in general, Will, for you, like, what are some of your favorite limiteds or exclusives? Like, what are some of your favorite ones?
That have come out.
Yeah.
You got cut off. Was it what my favorite exclusives were, or any particular type of exclusive?
Oh, well. Just in general, like favorite, they can be shop exclusives, seasonal, limited edition runs, small batch. What are some of your favorite exclusives that you've smoked?
Probably, if I had to say, and I'll kind of go through different categories. If I had to say the favorite one and done,
Yeah,
it was the La Polina Goldie La Guido #2, which was the Petite Lancero. They did one run of that Petite, come back since.
right.
If I had to say the #1 limited production, it's got to be the La Aurora Cien Años Maduro, which is
Yeah,
limited. They do sporadic runs of that. There isn't a lot of them. If I had to say the #1 shop exclusive, it's got to be the Tatuaje Apocalypse, which went to Smoke Inn.
right.
They did an Anarchy and then they did an Apocalypse, and the Apocalypse was the second one that went to Smoke Inn. The Anarchy was the first that went to Smoke Inn. That Apocalypse was a Cigar of the Year candidate. It was that good a cigar,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah, I would have to.
So
Yeah, that's and so with those, like you were saying with the Cien Años, they kind of do runs here and there. Are there other exclusive shop? Well, first off, do you want to tell people sort of this is all based on an article that Will did um, back. You can read it at Cigar Coop, but it's an article he did on exclusives and breaking down the different kinds of exclusives, and a really interesting conversation on exclusives and sort of thinking like how they're gaining in popularity and that sort of thing. Do you want to just break down the different sorts of exclusives and limited editions you talk about in that article?
yeah, so the article for a publication called Cigar Lounger, which is no longer in publication. They were really doing some good work. But I did take the article last year and put it up on my website because with the explosion of limiteds, you know, it was creating a lot of discussion in terms of some things what people were saying were limiteds, and many people said, no, they're not really limiteds, or other people say, I thought this was limited. Now I'm seeing it all the time. So what I did is it really came down to semantics. And I
Yeah,
looked at it and I said, okay, if I'm a retailer and I want to get a cigar, basically what I want to be able to do is I
oh,
want to be able to get that. If I'm a retailer and I want to get that cigar,
yeah, yeah,
what I want to do is I want to be able to get that cigar at any time. So if I'm able to do that, where I'm able to just put my order form in, and for the most part, maybe it will be back ordered once or twice, but I know I'm going to get that cigar, receive it. That's a regular production cigar.
right. Will's frozen again. It's
Can't
just
get them anymore.
everything's conspiring. Everything's conspiring, Will. The internet's conspiring. My ineptitude with technology is conspiring.
Did anything I say come out?
I no.
Hang on, I'm going to try something to try to reduce some bandwidth here.
This is like.
My
This
internet
is.
seems strong. I have a strong signal, so okay. Let's
It's
start
just.
this again.
It's just the way of this episode, Will. It's a total disaster.
All right. Let's see if we can start again.
All right.
Now I'm going to start cutting out again.
Yeah, you are cutting out.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Just jump in there if I'm cutting it out again, so at least I know. So what I did is with a limited, I went back and said, what's the definition of a limited? And to kind of go back, as I went to the retail level, and I said, okay, if I'm a retailer and I can order this cigar, I can pretty much know when I order this cigar, I can get it. I can pretty much get as much as I want of it. That's a regular production cigar. If I'm told I can't get that cigar, except if I order it right now because it's one and done, or if I can only get so many boxes of this cigar, or if I'm told, no, I can't get this cigar because it's only designated to a certain area, or no, I can't get this cigar because it's event only, or it's for a certain lounge, that's limited. So limited was pretty much anything that I can't get on a regular basis. And
Yeah.
really, there's two factors that kind of come into play with that. The reason why limiteds are done is one is possibly it's tobacco. It's supply and demand pretty much. So from a supply standpoint, there's so much tobacco, and they want to stretch it out. So they find creative ways to do that. In terms of how they're going to go about limiting that, which I could talk about. The other thing that is there's distribution factors, and I just talked to Eddie Ortega this past,
All right.
and that's a limited run, but it's limited because they're not trying to saturate the market right now.
Right.
So they're deliberately trying to make sure that they don't oversaturate the market, so they're limiting it from that standpoint.
Right. Right. And so, yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Oh no, I was gonna say, just sort of have limited small batch. You have seasonal limited, which sort of is your kind of, and some of them are multiple categories. So you have your monster cigars, for example, which is sort of seasonal limiteds, and they're released at Halloween, but they're also limited in the sense that they're one and done. Like if you want a Frank, you have to go find the Frank that was released in 2008 or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm real jealous, Dave. I saw you smoke the Frank on the show with Pete, and I've never had the original Frank. So good for you.
That is a tremendous cigar. I have very generous listeners that sent that to me in the mail.
Dave, yeah, we don't thank listeners enough. I mean, I know you do. I know I thank them, but there's just so many kind people out there. And I had someone send me a Tatuaje Boris.
Whoa!
Yeah, and it was a guy in Texas named Steven, and I have not smoked it not because I don't want to smoke it. I need the right time to smoke the Tatuaje Boris.
Oh
He sent me
yeah.
that. Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
I got I was on Stogie Geeks, the show that Will does. You can see his shirt, the Smoke Naked shirt. And I mentioned on Stogie Geeks I never had a Tatuaje cigar because in Australia, because the prices are so high, you just can't buy them anywhere. So I never had one, and a listener tweeted me and said, "Oh, have you never had a Tatuaje?" And I said, "No." And this is Brett Smith, who I credit often, because he just sent me 12.
12
So he
Frank?
sent me
12 Tatuajes.
no, he said 12 Tatuajes. So I got the Mummy, the Frank, the Drac, a couple Lats. It was unbelievable.
That's
but
awesome.
but some of my favorite, I guess, like just that the original, I guess, monster series pre the Pudgy Monsters are some of my favorites. Like the Mummy, the Drac, the Frank. Those are amazing cigars. The Drac is amazing.
The Drac is, and the Drac is really good. I really like the face.
Yeah, I haven't had that one.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about that, that's a Mexican wrapper that Pete's using on that thing. And Pete doesn't use a lot of Mexican wrappers on his cigars. And we were talking about that in the first iteration.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big Mexican wrapper fan either. That's the funny thing. So
no. Well, it's like I had the Tabacalera. Oh, what is that? It's the Double D wet pack.
Oh,
which that's a shop exclusive. Is that correct?
Shop exclusive to Tobacco Plaza, just outside New York City in Long Island.
That's one of my favorite cigars ever in the world. That cigar is amazing.
I've never had the wet pack. I've had the dry pack, and the dry pack's an unbelievable cigar. But I've heard great things about the wet pack.
For those that don't know, it's like it's a big kind of fat Bellicoso that just smokes incredible. Like the construction on that cigar is phenomenal.
The one thing that's really amazing about that Bellicoso, it was almost like a tailor. That Bellicoso is, how can I put it? It was well made, that Bellicoso, that tip. It's a small one.
It is,
and it tapers that. it's a big 58 ring gauge, and it actually tapers that so much that I think it actually it makes that 58 ring gauge smoke, much more manageable.
Oh yeah.
Which
I
I
mean,
which I yeah.
you cut that taper off, and you're smoking it out of like a 52 or something.
Yeah, and it's almost like that tapering is like a chocolate chip almost. It reminds me of
Mm-hmm.
where yeah, and it just I was just real impressed. I was just real impressed with the way it smoked. It's just I don't know. I have a picture of it here. I don't know
The
if that can
flavor,
be.
the flavors on that, the flavors on that, especially the wet pack, are just out of this world. Yep.
So you can see that tip. It's a little bit. It's a small one, but
Yep.
what happens is I find sometimes when those tips get a little big, they're prone to crack.
Yep.
So it's a sharp taper there, and you can just get enough of it where you can get enough of the tip off to really get that tapering off that cigar.
No, it's a great cigar. Um, Speaking of great cigars, this is what's left of my 48.
So that's you really the black licorice note is the one that really and you kind of when you said it, yeah, it just clicked in.
Yeah, it's so smooth. I mean, and this is what I say to people about cigars. It's like, I mean, smoking them right out of the pack, is great and all, but when you get something from 2009, 2008, some with a bit of age on it is just out of this world. Like the flavors are amazing.
Oh, totally agree. Totally agree.
And with some of these exclusives that we're talking about, like the original Monster Series, this H shot. I mean, a lot of Cubans and limited editions are like that. Um, you kind of have to get them aged because they're sort of done. So a lot of them you're finding on the secondary market, you know, stuff like that, and they just smoke so wonderfully.
Absolutely.
So we were talking too how exclusives has sort of exploded recently, and there seems to be a real focus on shop exclusives and regional exclusives. What I mean by regional, we were talking about earlier, looking at Crown Heads and how they have Yellow Rose of Texas, Tennessee Waltz, Mason-Dixon Project. We got the Northern and the Southern. I think Tatuaje is doing a regional exclusive for Hawaii, like a shop out there, which is a shop exclusive and a regional exclusive, I guess. And Habanos have done that and had like a boulevard for Canada and for Spain and stuff like that. Do you see like the regional / shop exclusive really gaining in popularity?
Yeah, they have really exploded in the last, I'd say, 4 years. Um, the shop, I mean, there's just first of all, every retailer wants to have a shop exclusive. The regionals have been picking up a lot more that I've seen, especially the last couple of years right now. Um, you know, and they're limited. These are limited
Yeah,
cigars in the sense that if there's a cigar going to the state of Montana, that retailer in North Carolina can't order that cigar in Montana. So it's another way they can kind of stretch it and not oversaturate it, which was those factors that I've talked about.
yeah,
But there's a lot of people who want these shop exclusives right now. And I think I was telling beforehand, the chase the chase is starting to wear thin now with a lot of people, where 6 or 7 years ago these were things people would really hunt down, but the market's putting so many choices out there that there's not as much need to chase these down anymore. And I think I was even telling you, I think the retailers have not done a good job at marketing their own stuff. Um, you know, point. I sent the letters out to about 20 retailers who I know do shop exclusives kind of on a regular basis,
right.
and the ones I hadn't had contact with said, "Hey, we want to cover your news on Cigar Coop. We're not looking for free cigars. We're not looking for anything more than just, hey, we'll help you get the word out there. I got two responses. Two.
That's
I mean,
insane.
it's insane. Now there's stores like Smoke Inn, Casa de Monte Cristo, Cigar Federation, that know how to work with the media, and we get the word out for them. And sometimes they're generous enough to share some cigars with us as well. But a lot of the cigar companies, when they give out these shop exclusives, they tell the shop, you're on your own for marketing it, right? And they just have no clue how to market it. So it's not like these cigars are flying off the shelves anymore like they used to. They There's a few of them, there's a handful of them that maybe sell out before they arrive. I could think like, Crown Heads, when they did the one for Cigar Federation, that thing sold out very before they arrived.
The
But
Buckingham.
the
The
Buckingham, yeah.
Buckingham. Yeah.
Tatawahe, the little Boris that went to Corona a couple years ago, that sold out very quickly. But there's not. I mean, I'll walk into and I know these shops. I've been to several of these shops I sent the letters to. They've had shop exclusives sitting there for four years. So I'm not sure. I mean, I gave mad props to Half Wheel. They do a very good job at chasing this stuff down. I just, at this point, I can't, from a media standpoint, let alone personal standpoint, I can't chase it down anymore. So I'll work with those shops that I've mentioned that have been willing to kind of work with us, and we'll help promote it. We'll smoke it, we'll purchase it even if it's good. But if they're not interested, I don't know what they're thinking. But I don't hold a grudge. If the offer's out there,
No.
they want to come back to me. If they're listening to this, if anyone wants to send me hate mail explaining it, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, do you think that with the shop exclusives it sounds like in a way you're saying there's so many shop exclusives out there, the idea of having a shop exclusive sort of loses a bit of its prestige, because it's sort of like, well, yeah, you and 2,000 other shops have exclusives. Like, why, what's the big deal with yours, sort of thing?
Exactly. That's exactly the point. And sometimes the shop exclusive is not necessarily a new blend; it's a size too.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, we work with a retailer in Stogie Geeks up in Rhode Island, and they're our sponsors. So we, obviously there's a lot of stuff we could do to promote with them. But even with them, we had to kind of say, here's what we can do for you guys, and because there's all these other choices out there now, that
yeah,
if you go back 5 years ago when I was getting started with the media, this was not, there was not nearly this explosion of,
yeah,
I mean, it's changed. But because of that,
yeah,
the choices are going to basically, people are not going to hunt it down. There'll be some Tatawahes that will always be hunted down.
yeah.
Monsters will always be hunted down, but there's a series of them coming out this year. These exclusives that Pete's releasing. I think they'll sell well. I don't think they'll sell out in one day anymore. I think those days are
No,
over.
yeah. Now, Will, I have to tell you that oddly enough, when we're actually on air, we have a lot more viewers than we had when we were talking off air. So that's exciting. We we got we got a couple viewers right now. So thanks for watching.
Yep.
Um,
You're not dealing with a. Dave knows what he's doing. He just had some bad luck tonight. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just. Yeah.
well, like I was saying before, see, because we were talking exclusives. We had a wonderful 45-minute talk that was off air, but pushed the wrong buttons and didn't know what I was doing. Full disclosure. But we were talking exclusives. I'm smoking the H. Upman 48, which is I'm about to cash out because it's about it. It's at that right there. Um, but and we're gonna have to have Will on again, and I have to have you again sometime soon. And I'm gonna have to send you a bunch of cigars
No,
for
you don't have to. I owe you some actually.
for coming out. But because I want to give you your due time, because we're sort of rushing through it now. But the other exclusive thing, and you touched on it, Room 101 is doing that with the Ichiban right now, aren't they? Like shop exclusives, but it's the size. So it's sort of each shop has a different size of that Ichiban. Is that correct?
That's correct, and they've announced 3 of them so far. And they've actually been working with the This is a case where Room 101 and Davidoff has helped actually do the press releases with these stores. So at least with 2 of the 3 stores they did. I don't know why they didn't do it with the third, but
Yeah.
but they've been, so that's kind of a rare case. But that's I think that's a good thing. And I actually just got one of the Ichiban in the Roxo sizes. I have not smoked it yet, but I just literally got it in the last week.
I got the only Room 101. I have the Uncle, was it Uncle Lee?
Uncle Lee.
I got that. I haven't smoked that yet. Now that's a limited, isn't it? A limited run.
It's a limited run. And I think it's a limited production. I don't think it's I don't know if it's going to be a lot of Room 101s limited. The only thing that have been one and done with Room 101s that I've seen are the master collections. They've been the true one-on-one. Namakubis have been limited production. I think this is. I don't know. I'm gonna guess. I don't know if Uncle Lee is a limited production or a one and done. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I'm just gonna have to say I'm gonna have to put this out right now because this is what I'm smoking. Right there, Will.
Oh wow!
I can't get much more out of this 48. I wanna put it out and eat it. That's what I want to do. It's so good.
Yeah.
But it's interesting with the limiteds because you have 2 like, you know, what I find interesting is like the Las Calaveras, for example. It's sort of a limited. It's a limited, but it's annual in the sense that it's the same brand, but they put a different blend out each year, and I find that interesting. It's sort of the Las Calaveras, but it keeps reinventing itself annually.
I think that's a true one and done on an annual basis. So
that's
the blend,
really,
if Cuba retires the blend after this year, it's one and done. I like the fact that he's taken that and put it into a line. I really like that concept.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's sort of like the Monsters in a sense, where it becomes like a collector's item where you're trying to collect the set, sort of thing, which I find interesting. And that, I'm telling you what, because I had a pre-release of the 2015, and that thing is gonna jump off the shelves, man. That's an amazing cigar.
I think they're red hot right now, so I think they'll sell. I mean, I think they sold out to the retailers already, which is what they look for.
Yeah.
So
it's totally different.
Part of the
it's totally different from the 2014. A totally different experience.
Now the 14 had that Oscuro wrapper, and then this one is is this the Rosado they did?
Rosado, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put that cigar down. But no, it's interesting, the exclusives and the limited editions. And like you were saying, I mean, it's almost, you can almost get overwhelmed for choice at a certain point. Because if you tried to chase all the limiteds down, I mean, even if you took like one brand, like if you said to yourself, all right, I want to get some of the limiteds from Tatuaje, for example. I mean, he must have like 50 limiteds or something.
Yeah, if you go to tatuaje.cigars.com, you could actually see a lot of them, and it's an incomplete showing.
Yeah.
It's the best. Pete is, I think, still the king of the shop exclusives. He's done a very good job at that. I think he's doing too many of them, in my opinion. I'd love to see him focus more on the core lines, just because I think he's done some very good core lines. He's going to be coming out with the Veracruz line, full line this year. So that's something to look forward to.
Now I want to give a shout out before I forget. I did this before, but I thought, once again, I don't think I was actually on air when I did it. But I was lighting my cigar today with Spill from Cedar Spills. Do you see that? All right. This is from Tom up at Commonwealth. Cedar Spills, lit it up with a spill from Tom. As you can see, got a little bit of the cigar jukebox on there. And yeah, I love lighting cigars with these. So
Tom's a
if you
great
have the
guy.
time, yeah, if you have the time, go to his website, check it out, get some spills, man.
Yep, they do. He does a good job. He's a big supporter of the industry, and of online
Yeah,
media. He's at a lot of events, and he makes a good cedar spill. He really does.
yeah, and what I appreciate about it is why I appreciate talking to guys like Pete Johnson and Skip Martin and Enrique Sanchez and John Huber. Is that with Tom? Because he was on the show before, thanks to Will, kind of introduced me to him. Um, you know, he's not just a guy that's putting out spills to sell something. Like, he is really knowledgeable about spills. He really has philosophy behind why you should use spills, and he really has a lot of knowledge about tobacco and a passion for it. And it's good. It's good to have those people in the industry. So if you go to Cedar Spills, drop him a line, get some spills, and you'll definitely be seeing more of his spills on the virtual event Herf. So Will's frozen. I think he froze. I think this is the world telling me that I need to do another special event Herf with Will. We need to redo episode 1. This is sort of
Am I
episode
back?
0. Yeah, you're back. I said this is the
I got a
universe
little.
telling me.
Yeah, it said this came up. Yeah, it looked like there's a network issue. I just got a pop up. It
To
may
redo
be on
episode
my
1.
end. Yeah. Am I back though?
You're back, man.
All right.
I don't know what's going on. I mean, the theme for this show should be like, well, what else can go wrong? I mean, that should be the theme for the virtual event Herf number 1. But it's great, and I think because I think um, we'll have Will on again to kind of redo it because I got a lot of exclusives. Because then we didn't even touch on before too when you get to the TAA stuff.
Yeah, we didn't. And that's another limited.
Yeah.
That's a whole other animal in the U.S. and that is absolutely exploded. So if you go back about 6 or 7 years ago, it used to be there was like a company was selected to do a TAA stick.
Yeah.
And then it expanded to a couple more. But what happened, and I heard actually president of the TAA on another show talk about this. It was the TAA actually, they depend on these sticks to bring revenue in for the organization.
Yeah.
They were kind of struggling a bit, and then Pete Johnson came out with his TAA in 2011.
Yeah.
And that just put this whole limited series on the map. And now this year, they're saying 13 cigars in the TAA. There's actually 14 blends because Padron's got 2 blends. Padron's got 2, and 10 of them are new. And but here's the irony. There's way too many, okay? Here's the irony.
Yeah.
These are the same retailers who are saying to the cigar companies, you're coming out with too much stuff. You're coming out with too many limiteds. And then they take on 10 limiteds. Last year's TAA disappointment for the TAA. It was not. Now, what I'm seeing this year, this year's set's getting off to a much better start, though. So, maybe they had an off year last year because I always look at the TAA stick should be the best of the best. That's what I've always looked at. You really should have yeah.
Because last year was the Angel's Anvil? Was that TAA last year?
It was TAA. Yeah, it was a TAA last year. And that was a Churchill size that was done by Crown Head. So that was their first. They're back in the TAA again this year.
Right. That's
interesting. I wasn't a big fan of that cigar. It was a good cigar. It wasn't what I would say should be TAA quality, which should be everything in the TAA should be minimum of a box-worthy cigar on a Stogie Geeks rating. There was only really 1 or 2 cigars last year that got that rating from us.
now the one thing I'll say about exclusives as well, because I have that Angel's Anvil, but I haven't smoked it yet. Um, and I found the same thing with the Las Calaveras. Is I had a Toro when it first came out, and I thought to myself, there's some great flavors here, but the flavors are they're not really balancing out. You kind of have a couple dominant flavors that are sort of steamrolling everything else, and it doesn't really have a lot of the nuance that I was kind of hoping for. Um, and then I had it with a year on it, and it was a lot better. So I wonder if a lot of these other exclusives with some age on it will perform a lot better as well.
Totally fair comment. Totally fair comment. There's just
And
so
it's
many
hard.
cigars that, yeah.
Well, it's hard. I mean, like when you look at the monsters, for me, it's hard to compare how they are new because by the time I've gotten them, they've had 3, 4 years on them. So it's hard to say, how they perform straight out of the box. I've just never had one straight out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, I went back and revisited the Little Monsters last year with 2 years of age on them, and there was some significant differences. The one that really went downhill, I thought, was more the Mummy blend. But
Yeah,
there were a couple of blends that I thought really shot up, like the face. So,
yeah,
or the baby face. So, it does.
yeah.
It kind of age. You just is a wild card. You just don't know what it's gonna do.
No, and it's interesting too because I had the Las Calaveras, the 2014, like right when it came out, I got some, and I'm like, well, it's good, but it's not, And I think Seth comments had a similar comment in that, it was all right, but when you had a limited that's made by Crown Heads and my father, you're sort of expecting to be sort of a little bit more, and so I had that, and it was okay. I mean, it was more than okay. It was pretty solid. I liked it. Then there was some guys in Australia that are like, oh, anybody looking for a 5 pack of Las Calaveras? And this is after about a year. And I said, oh, I'll try it again. And I had it again, and it performed a lot better than when I originally had it. So it's interesting what age can do to a cigar, just in general.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, if you smoke Padron 64s, um,
Yeah,
the longer they're on the shelf, they lose an edge. You haven't, yeah, they lose their edge. But Padron 26s are the opposite. You put them away, they're great.
yeah, yeah. And I guess that's with some of these exclusives in the sense that, like, when you get the one and done, I think it'd be good to try and snatch up a few and age some and then smoke some new. But it's hard with the limiteds because they are so limited that maybe you're only able to get like one or two, and you don't really have the option to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in some of the limiteds, you had to make a box purchase for. So, for
Yeah,
example, the little monsters, the pudgy monsters. Davidoff just came out with a golf edition of 8 cigars,
yeah,
and you got to basically for 8 cigars, you're coughing up like $250. Great cigars, but are you gonna and but if they're not broken open, people aren't gonna try them, so they're gonna sit there. It was
yeah.
interesting. So you heard about the big Padron 50th anniversary in the humidors?
Yes.
Okay, so those humidors went out in December, and for the most part, the retailers got them and said, "Well, we're not gonna break open these things. We're gonna sell them." A
Yeah,
set. Some of them sold, and some of them sat. Uh, I went and paid for. I went and then got one that was broken open, and I ended up paying a lot of money for it. I don't regret it, but time now I'm seeing some of the retailers. Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll break these things open. We'll raffle off the humidor. We'll sell the humidor separate. So again, I think it's. I think this thing with this chase thing, it's starting to come to or this
yeah,
idea of these limiteds are not maybe as what they want. There are some very very good cigars in there,
yeah,
but people are getting smart with their wallet and they're making other choices.
yeah. And talking about limiteds as well. one that I got that I haven't had yet, and is that art edition, and it's
Oh,
sitting in my humidor. And every time I reach to smoke it, I have to think twice because I know I can't get another one. And it's a tough decision, I have to tell you.
Davidoff is David. When it comes to the Davidoff brand, they you won't come back with these things.
No.
So, and there wasn't an art edition this year, which I was really disappointed in.
And that's an interesting concept because that's an exclusive that they commissioned the art to go with the cigar as well. So that's an interesting twist on the sort of exclusive.
It was brilliant by Davidoff. So what they did is they're doing some give back to the art community. They're funding grants. They're doing residencies, and then basically what they're doing is these folks who they're funding, they're giving them the opportunity to design the packaging. So these things have been
Yeah.
seen on not just the art edition, the Xenos tend to do that as well. And it's a win-win. It's a very good program they have. So they've really taken that and they've incorporated that into how they're doing business right now, which is very interesting, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, and I think, as we were talking before, I think you're gonna find. I mean, the one downside with all the limiteds and exclusives is you kind of what you can do, which seems sort of counterproductive, is you can actually saturate the market with limited cigars, and it becomes too much out there. But on the flip side of that, I think what it does is it's sort of in order to set yourself apart, a lot of people are going to have to get a bit creative with how they market and put limiteds together, like the art edition or like what Room 101's doing with the sizes. You have to get a bit creative to set sort of your limited edition, your exclusive apart from the others.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that a
And it's
lot.
yeah, I mean it's like, for example, one brand that I really like is Paul Stulak. I love his cigars to death, and he's going to be on the virtual event Herf later on in August, I think. And and he was part of a shop, I think in Wichita, that did a limited series, shop exclusive series on Reservoir Dogs, and sort of each Reservoir Dog had its own Lancero, and I think he did one. I want to say like Viaje did one,
I don't.
Doug
Yeah,
Bradley possibly.
they weren't all Lanceros, but they were all. Yeah,
Okay,
he did a Lancero, and broke the news on your show of that Mr. Brown. I might add.
yeah, that's a great cigar. That's a
It
great
really
blend
is. It's
too.
in his red label, yeah, and he did that. He did that for I think the Humidor, West Side Humidor did that for.
Yeah, but I think going forward now that exclusives, or event exclusives, shop exclusives, they're all sort of popping up. I think you can see brands and shops get a lot more creative with their exclusives to try and set them apart, like the Las Calaveras, where it's an annual exclusive that has a real philosophy behind it that gets people excited for it, or the monsters that people can look forward to every year. Well, what's the next monster going to be? Like you need to sort of set yourself apart from all the other ones.
You know, well, you got to give props to the one that was just announced this week. The folks at Cigar Dojo and Cigar
Yeah.
Federation with this Viaje thing. Not only did they, so they're coming out with two different blends. Okay, and you could say gimmicky, and it's a fair argument that okay, it's gimmicky. But what are they doing on top of that? They're having this vote now to see who. Okay,
Yes.
they're letting the people decide. So they're actually doing a vote on this thing. I think it's awesome. I mean,
Oh.
Stogie Geeks might have to challenge the winner. We're thinking. We might have to. I don't know if we're gonna get in the cigars, but it would be cool. But I mean, it is a cool concept. Maybe someone challenges the winner. You know.
Oh yeah, what's that? And what Will's talking about is the throwdown. It's called, and you get a box. You get a I don't know if it's a box, but
It's a
a
bundle.
bundle,
Yeah, it's a.
bundle of 10, and it's 5 of the Dojo blend and 5 of the Cigar Federation blend, and then you vote on which is better. I guess.
Yeah. And they're Viajes. They're done by Viaje.
Excuse me. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
so
really interesting.
yeah, I think it was just brilliant. I think it was an absolute, and again, it's like what you said, that it's doing something a little different. Pete tried to do it a couple of years ago when he put the cards in there, and then
Yeah,
he got beat up by these people who basically say, "Oh, you're marketing and it's
yeah,
like, or he had, or he got beat up because some people had the cards and some people didn't. So he tried to do something fun.
yeah.
I felt bad for him because I thought it was I thought it was a good concept.
Well, that's like saints and sinners, sort of the idea that you have this collection of cigars that's part of this larger saints and sinners, club or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the idea of to give you some limiteds or give you some prototypes and things like that. And I say they really take care. The people who pay for that membership. I hear a lot of good things in terms of the customer service you get from that. So
Yeah, but it's interesting because what people are doing with the sort of limiteds and the exclusives, and trying to sort of do something different, like we talked about before, impromptu, um, or lost and found, the Caldwell, Bellotto, and Sears. The
yep.
idea that they just sort of scour these factories and find hidden blends that they then release in a limited number, but it's a different take on the exclusive, in that whole brand is based on exclusive blends, and that gets a lot of great buzz. Those cigars get huge buzz.
I Yeah, and then some of them have been pretty good, and some of them have been misses. I'll be straight on that.
Yeah.
But what I like is they're making any bones about it. They're not saying we look what we're blended, or they're
No.
basically they're not they. But what they've done is they've put some creative marketing around it.
Mm.
And I think a lot of the creative marketing, the catchy names, and the fact that Robert Caldwell right now, there's no hotter name in the cigar
No.
business right now. This guy, and I'm not discrediting the other partners. I mean, I'm sure because I'm sure they're working hard, and Robert would give them a full. Robert Caldwell is headed. I mean, I'm telling you, you're going to hear some big things. I predict he'll be in the Cigar Aficionado ratings at the end of the year. I think
Oh
he's
yeah. Well, you and I. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, you and I both interviewed him, and the guy just exudes passion for cigars, doesn't he? Like he just exudes passion for tobacco, passion for cigars.
he does, and it. When he was with CLE, he was a different guy. And I don't know what it was, but since he kind of gone on his own, he's allowed to be Robert Caldwell, or he feels he could be, and this is who he is. And
Yeah.
this guy, as I was talking to him, I made that comment. I said, "This is a guy who he lives this stuff, um,
Yeah.
and he's just passionate about it, and he's getting noticed by a lot of people in the industry right now. And he's very blunt,
Yeah.
like he was talking about his event only cigar on our show, Yellow Cake, and
That's the yellow
yeah,
cake. Yep.
he did not oversell. He said, "Look, it's a mixed filler cigar." He goes, "It's made from the leftover parts of the Caldwell collections." He goes, "We put it in there to give a consumer just a little extra for coming out to events, something a little different. We're not claiming it to be best." And when he found out what some of these things were going for, he was like, "What are you guys nuts?
Yeah.
Don't pay." He's
That's
telling
right.
people, don't pay for this. If you're going to an event, come to the event and you'll get it. Say but don't." So
No, it's and I'd say, for those who haven't listened to it, go listen to that interview on Stogie Geeks. You guys did a great interview. It was interesting to
so did
hear.
you. So did you too. Yeah.
It was interesting to hear him talk about a little his challenges and what it was like, sort of before Caldwell, where he was sort of left Winwood, and it was really interesting.
Yeah. He. It's funny. He actually was interviewed. He was the first interview that Stogie Geeks ever did, but it was before I joined the brand. So that was actually the second time he was on. And I tell people, watch the 2 interviews.
Yeah.
And I reference, I could, if you watch the 2 interviews, and they're both great interviews. They're just different interviews. I mean, this one, I think lucky we don't have FCC regulation.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was all good. I had met Robert in person last August.
Yeah.
I really didn't get a chance to talk about the trade show. He was slammed, right? I met him.
Yeah.
He came up to Greensboro, North Carolina, and he had no rep. He did this event himself.
Yeah.
He took the time to talk to everybody. But perhaps the most interesting thing, I see Robert going into the boxes of the cigars and pulling cigars out. And I started
Right.
looking at it. I noticed him doing this a few times. And I said, look, there's nothing wrong with these cigars. Robert's like, oh, yeah, these are no good. He goes, I'm replacing. He made a count, and he made good with the retailer. He says, he didn't want those cigars going out. So he's a real stickler for quality as well.
Mm. Now, Will, as this virtual event Herf is a learning experience for me, I just found the button to open up the chat. So I got a question here by Bob, who's watching. So thanks, Bob, for watching. Sorry
Thank
if you
you,
had to
Bob.
wait a long time. But he's asking, what's your overall opinion on the Pudgy Monsters? Now, I have to admit, I haven't had a lot of the Pudgy Monsters. I've only had the Chuck and the Tiff, and all the other ones I've had sort of in their original form. Like I've had the Drac and the Mummy and that, so I have not had that in the Pudgy. So what did you think, Will? Pudgy Monsters, I mean, what's your opinion on them on a whole? Like, which one stuck out to you? How do you find that project?
I thought it was a good project. In a way, I thought it was better than the Little Monsters project because there was shorter versions of the original Monsters, so they had the same ring gauge. So as though the Little Monsters were shorter and had different ring gauges. So I don't want to say they were still the exact, but they were close. The two that stood out were the Frank in the face.
Right.
Where I would say, those were, if they were selling on boxes on their own, I would give them that. But the surprise of that cigar set was which that's based off the JB13. I wasn't a big JB13 fan.
Yeah.
The Jason smoked really good. In fact, I went and called JB13. Jason, he thought it was a better cigar too. The Tiff was a nice addition. I think it got a little maligned, so to speak. A lot of people didn't like it. I liked it. I thought it was a good Connecticut. I don't think it's a Cab Guan, but I thought it was good. I thought the Chuck was a cigar that had quite a bit of I thought it was a different flavor profile than anything I had from Tatuai before that Chuck.
Right.
Where the other ones I could say, yeah, it's Tatuai. This one just it almost smoked like a Corojo. That was just the best way to put it. It had that Corojo sweetness to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only one that was maybe the one and the funny thing is I didn't think the Drac smoked all that great in it. So I'd say it's a cigar set worth getting. If you can find them.
They're still around. Yeah.
So it's definitely worth the investment if you like Tatuai. I think there's something in it for everybody. I think what you'll have, like I said, if the Drac was the only one I didn't like, I got my money's worth from it still. So
yeah. Now Bob asked another question. First of all, I have to apologize for Bob for the link not working because I think I set this event up like 8 times because I did it wrong every time. So hopefully, Bob, it'll be more streamlined next time and everything will work better. But thanks for your persistence in finding it.
Thank you, Bob.
He has a good question, he has a good philosophical question that I want to comment on as well. And he was saying, do you think putting out a collaboration or a limited release specifically gains popularity or esteem for a given company? and I think that I think a couple examples of where it did really well for the company and gained esteem. I think the Las Calaveras really did Crown Heads a lot of good. I think that a lot of people connect that may not have connected with Crown Heads before. I think people are really excited about those releases and they sell well. And I think Crown Heads has gotten a lot out of that. Tatuaje and the Monsters. I mean, people love those cigars, and they really get a lot out of those. And on the flip side, I think for a company that collaboration, I think Cigar Dojo. I said this before, but I think Dojo's done really well with their exclusives, and I think that really has added to Dojo. It added to sort of their audience. I mean, what do you think, Will? Have you thought of examples where a limited edition has really really done well for the company, or the shop that's gotten it has really gotten a big hit of esteem out of that?
Yeah. So in terms of collaborations, I'll put a little different spin on it. Let me talk about two, because there's two that just came out, and I'm going to put a little different spin. So if you look at the collaboration that Eddie Ortega and Sean Williams have just done.
Yeah.
So basically, to come together, and they're teaming with Eric, who has a factory, and they each blended a cigar for the other's profile. I talked to both of these guys, and these crossroads.
Oh, we're losing Will. We're losing Will. Will Cooper, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were talking about is a larceny. Is that what it was?
Yeah. So I was mentioning that I talked a little about what larceny is. Basically, Eric Espinosa and Sean Williams came together.
Yep.
They teamed up with La Zona, Eric Espinosa, to make the cigars, and they each blended a cigar. Sean blended one for Eddie's palate. Eric blended one for Sean's palate.
Yeah.
Why I say this is a very interesting project is both these guys are at a crossroads in their careers right now. I think, and this was very clear in the interview we did with them. Eddie right now, he had some success early on. It was very clear his core lines are not moving anymore. He needed to do something a little different. Sean, he's been doing some restructuring of his lines. He's moving away. He was with PDR for a while. He's moving away. So these guys both really came together with a very unique collaboration. They debuted this at a multi-vendor event. The cigars were the top-selling cigars, and it wasn't that it was just those two guys. The cigars were very good.
Yeah.
So that's one where I think the collaboration, they needed each other right now. These are two guys who needed to do something. The second one, and I just interviewed these guys this week. Boutique Blends, Rafael Nadal is teaming up with, of all companies, Altadis.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Basically, what Altadis did, they are working with Tabacalera La Palma, which is a Boutique Blends manufacturing partner, and they're marketing, they're distributing the cigar, but the production was done on Rafael's end. And very interesting crossroads that these companies have come to as well. So you have Altadis, which is trying to basically show they're not the 300-pound gorilla, and they're trying to basically come up with they're trying to show they're more boutique, and they can move light, they can be more agile and move lightweight. And they were starting to show a little bit of that with Romeo, where maybe Romeo was hitting mark the Romeo, not the Romeo by Romeo Julieta.
Yep.
And then Aging Room, on the other hand, from Rafael, a small batch cigar that when it got number 2, suddenly was reaching smokers. So these two have come together, and it's another.
Oh, we're losing you again, Will.
Yeah,
you're breaking up.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I stopped, so maybe I didn't break up. But so yeah, both these companies came together, and they had a unique opportunity to kind of hit other markets right now. So that's, again, these are, and according to Altadis, they're going to be doing a lot more of these types of projects. So
Yeah.
I think, so to answer Bob's question, which was a very long-winded answer, this is these collaborations, and then you brought some good insights too. They're fresh for the industry right now, as long as the cigars are good. Because the second a Dog
Yeah.
Rocket comes out, it's gonna be, people are gonna say gimmick. But like
Oh
I said,
yeah,
both the
yeah.
cigars are good. Yeah, the Romeo aging room cigar was very good as well.
And the thing, you were saying that before. I mean, it's hard to shake that too, isn't it, for a brand if they put out a cigar that just doesn't smoke well. That's just a bad cigar. It's hard to shake that sort of label, isn't it? As they put out a gimmick that sticks with the company for a while, doesn't it?
We just had Rocky Patel on. I'm sorry, I'm hawking promoting it, but he said that to us. He said they all remember the bad cigar. They don't remember. You know,
Yeah.
if you put that one cigar out, they all remember the miss. And think about
That
the companies that you could go to, and it's so true.
yeah.
Everyone
Well,
remembers the
that
miss.
happened with that Matt Booth was talking about that with Room 101. Like it took
Oh,
them a while to sort of gain back that, because originally they came out and they had a couple poor, they had some poor cigars come out of the factory. It took a while for him to sort of rebuild that with the Namakumi. Really brought them back on, but it took a while for him to work through that.
I'll never forget, because that was his third year with that Namakubi, and the skepticism that everyone had before the
Yeah,
trade show about Namakubi. They just said it was because it was two in a row he had, and I mean, he he had a. I mean, he really just kind of said he knocked it out of the park. He needed to do it.
yeah. It
Yep.
but yeah, that could stick. That could stick with you for a while, I think. So yeah, it's a good point that you make. I mean, you can have a limited that has a lot of buzz, but if it doesn't deliver, it can actually do more harm than good.
Yeah, and what Matt's done with that now is and I think he said it in your interview. He's taken Namakubi and it's become like a foundation blend for other things,
Yeah,
you know. And then maybe if he has some more limited tobaccos, those become more limited cigars, you know. So like the Daruma
yeah,
Gold, Daruma and Daruma Gold, they were offshoots of that, you know. So that's kind of, but he has that, you know, and I think Pete's done that a lot with his brown label as well.
yeah. But no, good questions there, Bob. And
But
thanks for sticking with us. Now, unfortunately, Will, after all the craziness, we're gonna have to finish up.
it's too bad. Yeah, we've been at this for a couple hours. It's like the
People watch are like, "What do you mean? The show's only been on for like 20 minutes?" But that's because there was some technical issues. But fear not, virtual event Herf people. I'm going to talk with Will. We'll negotiate a redo, a
yeah, we'll definitely.
do-over.
Well, yeah, you have. That's no problem at all. Glad to do that. But really, they want to hear Skip in a couple weeks and a few weeks. So that's Skip is. I'm glad he's on the mend. If he's listening, I'm really
Yep.
glad you're getting better. And just take care of yourself right now.
Yeah, I saw he was on. Checked on Facebook this morning. He said he lost like 68 pounds or something.
Look, I always said I wanted to eat dinner with Skip, right? But if I have
Yeah.
to eat salad with Skip, I'll do it. You know, I want him to be okay. You know, I'd rather have a steak with him, but if I have to have salad with him, I still want to eat with him. So,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, but so for the virtual event Herf in the future, we're gonna redo Will when we can find a time that suits. We got Skip Martin's coming on. We'll have Enrique Sanchez from 1502 coming on. Paul Stulak is scheduled to come on, and the one and only Matt Booth is scheduled to come on, which could be very exciting.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting to see
Oh
him.
yeah. Matthew.
Yeah, and we're trying to have a couple other people on. Trying to do it once a month to start, but we may have a couple, you know, a couple extra ones now and there, depending on time. And yeah, and definitely try and have you back on, Will, to do do
Anytime you
justice.
need. Anytime you need. Yep, that's that.
All right, thanks
But
for
I think you're
people
doing
for.
a.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. No, I was gonna say thank you, Dave. You're doing a great job, and I guess I'm just gonna, I think it's official. I want to congratulate you on your media association, joining the Cigar Media Association. I wanted to just make one more comment for a guy who's been doing this now for a little over a year. And I'm not just saying because I'm on with you. The inroads you've made and the people you've had on, and the type of show you're doing. I mean, this is just a testament. So check out Cigar Jukebox, please. It's a real refreshing show in the industry right now.
Oh, thanks, Will. I really appreciate it. And
Yep,
uh,
no problem.
and yeah, and like I said, for Will, check out Cigar Coop. Check out Stogie Geeks. You can find Stogie Geeks on the Cigar Federation site on there. They have archive shows there. Will, you want to give out where people can find Cigar Coop?
Yeah, it's www.cigar-coop.com. And Stogie Geeks, www.stogiegeeks.com.
All right. Well, thanks, Will. Thanks everybody for your patience. This first episode was a huge learning experience for me, and hopefully everything will go a lot smoother the next time through. And
It's
thank
always
you,
hard the
Will,
first time.
definitely for filling in.
Anytime.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you later, Will.
Bye bye.